All right. Again, I'm Reverend Kim Taylor, and this is Sunday service for those of you just joining us online for August 20th, 2023. So this is a scary thought, but today I wanted to talk about death. And for most people, this is a scary word. It's a terrifying concept, and it doesn't matter if you change it to demise, eternal rest, deceased, passed away. It's still scary and absolutely debilitating, terrifying for some people. When people talk about it, it's usually only if they're forced to. People fear that just talking about it will conjure the inevitable. I know people who won't do a will because they're scared that that will make it happen. You know, think about how many people put off planning because they just don't want to talk about it. And they don't want to ever think about the time that they're not here in the physical. And it starts as early as when we're children. Our parents and loved ones, they whisper about death. They don't talk about it openly. You know, when a family has to say goodbye to a beloved pet, you know, they've gone to the farm, or they've, you know, something similarly more comfortable, I guess, that they would think. You know, maybe grandma went to the farm too. And, you know, what does that put in a kid's head? They don't want to go to the farm when you tell them about the road trip you're taking. You know, my own family, when someone took their life, my mom would say they committed sideways. And that was confusing. I'd never understood what somebody, you know, doing sideways meant. Like, I just didn't. So it's silly, the things that you put in. And it would be just so much easier if we got comfortable and just talked about it in straight terms and right from the start. Now, if you see someone on the street that's lost a loved one, a lot of times you'll just avoid that person because you don't know what to say. Here's a hint. Just start by saying hello, hi. They know that their loved one has moved on. They know they're no longer in the physical. And you can't possibly make it worse by saying hi or really anything that's heartfelt. You can make them feel more alone, though, if you avoid them. People that I know that have lost a loved one, they say they feel the most alone about 2 weeks after. People have stopped sending meals, stopped doing errands, stopped making the phone calls, and they've just moved on with their lives. And of course, it's expected. So, you know, maybe your interaction will be the only interaction that they'll have that day with someone. And be reminded that someone actually cares. And death is scary. We're told this through television, movies, and books. And, you know, if that doesn't get your fear of death going, mainstream religions, you know, you're going to go and have to atone for your sins, and, you know, you'll either be filtered up to this beautiful heaven, or you're going to be sent down to a terrifying, fiery eternity. And a big fear of everyone is that ever impossible attainment of heaven. You know, what did you do? What could you have done? Now, let me ask you, if you fear death, can you ever really start living? You can't. And then there's the song by Tim McGraw, Live Like You Are Dying, where you're finally doing all the things that you've put off, being the person you weren't, and a lot of times just slowing down and taking the time to actually experience and purposely go through their life. And why do you have to wait to live like that? As many of you know, I do listen to a lot of podcasts on the afterlife and do a lot of reading on the end of life and the afterlife. And it could just be because I have a passion to help people prepare for the end of life and not to be fearful of passing away. And that is my absolute wish for everyone as an end-of-life doula. In near-death accounts, I've yet to hear a single person say that, you know, they fear death after. They come back and they really live their lives. They are now on a mission. They no longer fear because they know there is nothing to fear. They say it is like going to sleep and awakening in a beautiful place surrounded by indescribable, overwhelming love. I personally have never had a near-death experience. However, I had a very profound experience a few years ago. And I still remember it as if it just happened. And I know I've told the story before, but I think it's a great reminder. I work downtown Edmonton, and I was walking down Royce Howard Way towards my vehicle, which was a few blocks away. And this area has many coves and alleys and dark areas. And fun fact, it's actually one of the areas that they filmed The Last of Us movie. I'm usually having an inner dialogue with myself, so I don't really remember what I was thinking prior to this that day. But I remember every single detail afterward. So suddenly, I heard a horrific screaming. It was a dog, and it sounded like it was being hurt or it was caught in something, and it was terrified. It was so awful. And those of you who know me, I'm a huge animal lover, so it just pulled at me. I looked frantically everywhere, looking around, wondering what was happening. And then I saw an older couple in an SUV down, and they were picking up a younger lady who had a dog. Or they had the dog. As soon as the dog saw the younger lady, he started screaming, trying to get back to her. He was so excited to see her. It still chokes me up. The horrific noise was him so happy to see her. I made eye contact with the man, trying to hold on to the dog, while the lady in the back got settled, and we smiled at each other. And relieved, as I walked away, I heard, "Kim, that's what happens when you cross over." Like I said, it still gets me. Everyone here is sad and crying and fearful of the future without their love. On the other side, the loved ones who have already crossed over see you, and they are beyond words happy to see you again and be able to hug you and hold you, and they scream with happiness. Sorry. Some days it gets me more. Just 1 second. It was 4 years ago, and you can see how it still affects me. And I was so overwhelmed. It was all I could do not to bawl my way home, and I failed. And I remember every single bit clearly. And when I say that the loved ones see them, I mean every single love of your life, including your animals, you know, your fur kids, your human loves, ones with feathers. Every single love will be there to greet you. And I have some quotes on death. "I am the one that's got to die when it's time for me to die. So let me live my life the way I want to." That was Jimi Hendrix. And he lived pretty good in his little bit of time, and, you know. Then, "Death, taxes, and childbirth. There's never any convenient time for any of them." That's Margaret Mitchell, who wrote Gone with the Wind. "Those who are afraid of death will carry it on their shoulders." That's a Spanish poet, Federico Garcia Lorca. And George Eliot, who's an English author, said, "Our dead are never dead to us until we have forgotten them." So, another thing, I asked a spirit guide through his trance medium last week, what happens when a person goes missing and crosses over, leaving the family in despair looking for them? In particular, I was quite concerned about the murdered and missing Indigenous women. And his answer was, when they cross over, they are met by their loved ones just the same, as they have prepared for them. He continued that they do not remember the circumstances that brought them to the spirit world if it has been this type of passing. He said that they welcome their newly arrived loved one and they get them all settled in. Then, once they are settled in and know they are ready, only then they will share the circumstances of their crossing. But at this point, it'll just be another piece of information. They do not have fear of the afterlife, and this is strictly an emotion of our world. And to me, that's so beautiful to know that no matter the circumstances that you've crossed over, you know, it's still the same. And I hope that that helps you as well. He went into talking about, you know, refugees on a boat, and, you know, they get so many on there and they're fearing, you know, trying to get to safety, and it sinks and they can't get, and he says the same thing. It's the same thing. They bring them over. And I don't know, did I mention that every single one of your loved ones are going to be there? How could you be wrong? Could you even imagine the euphoria of that moment? So let's talk about death as a beautiful transition that we will make. Let's live every day as it's our last. Let's say the words we need to say and never leave our loved ones wondering how much they mean to you. Don't hold on to the words of those that do not matter. A lot of us do that. Let's celebrate their birthdays into the spirit world. And death is only the physical body. We don't die. And remember, no matter the circumstances, no matter if you're in a room and your loved ones have left and you've crossed over, anyway, you do not die alone. All right. So, thank you. And I will just finish this here.